So today we have really two parts to our business. The initial strategy was a platform business. I don't recommend going that path, but that is the path that we ended up pursuing, and most likely went this path because it's a little bit of, throw a whole lot of mud against the wall and see what sticks sort of product market fit strategy. And so we thought, well, the future of AI is going to be a lot of language models, a lot of AI ecosystem, and we wanted to be just the interface layer over top. We just got the timing really wrong on that strategy. As you can imagine, we had pockets of success, but never the hyperscaling story that we initially set out to create around that.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where emotional intelligence is how smart businesses listen better, lead stronger, and close deals without bulldozing the room. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What does it really take to build a brand new category in tech when the market isn't quite ready and the stakes are sky high? In this episode, we step into the world of AI powered digital humans, a frontier that blends science fiction with real world applications. No, it's not Westworld, but behind the futuristic tech lies a story of trial, error, and evolution. From early breakthroughs to hard earned pivots, you'll hear what happens when bold vision meets the messy realities of market timing, product focus, and rapid growth. We'll explore how a high profile project within the Australian government and IBM Watson led to the development of Nadia, a digital human that pushed the boundaries of user interaction. Success didn't come without setbacks. You'll learn how an overly broad platform strategy gave way to a more focused, impactful use case in training and simulation, and why narrowing the vision ultimately unlocked greater traction. There's a raw look at crisis management, how early wins turned into operational overload, leading to burnout, tough decisions, and the realization that culture and systems are just as critical as code. If you're curious about the future of AI and what it means to humanize tech, and maybe want to peek at the behind the scenes realities of innovating in uncharted territory, then this episode is just for you. Let's dive in. Our expert guest last Thursday was Warner Moore, founder of Gamma Force. Warner gave us a masterclass on cybersecurity strategy for growth stage SaaS. He broke down the myths of compliance, the importance of culture and threat prevention, and how modern security starts with clarity, not firewalls. If you're scaling a security minded startup, and what startups shouldn't be, especially these days, this episode should really be required listening. And our founder last week was fractional CTO and CRO, Lior Weinstein. He shared how to rethink growth through simplification, from leveraging AI before hiring to automating your entire revenue system. Amazing stuff. Lior's episode is packed with actionable takeaways for founder-led companies ready to level up without burning out. So if you missed that, go check it out. My guest today is Danny Tomsett, founder and CEO of UneeQ, a global leader in digital human technology. Think AI avatars capable of emotionally intelligent real-time conversation. Very cool, a little bit scary, and they've made it work really well. From winning the Virgin Business Challenge, judged by Sir Richard Branson, to partnering with visionaries like Sam Altman, Danny's career has been one long love letter to humanizing technology. He started building games at 8 years old, founded and exited a telco company by 25, and now he's pioneering a whole new category where emotion meets AI. It's pretty incredible. Welcome someone who's making digital feel deeply human, Danny Tomsett. Hey, Danny, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, Jeff. Great to be here.
Let's rewind all the way back to the beginning. You started developing games as a kid and exited a telco company by 25. It's pretty awesome. What early experiences shaped your entrepreneurial mindset?
There were a lot of lessons in that time. As you can imagine, being a very young entrepreneur. Funnily enough, coding games at 8 years old, I learned very quickly the equation of supply and demand. But I had a lot of fun, obviously, learning how to code, build games, and even came up with my first subscription model back then. And annuities are good. So I was addicted to annuity revenue quite early on, and probably what led me into telecommunications. It was a good early business for me too, I think, because later businesses that I've done, I'm sure we'll talk about, that search for product market fit and some of the strategies would have been lost on me back then. But in a more commoditized business, you can really hone in on what makes a business differentiated. And I think part of probably the biggest lessons that I end up taking out of that, though, enjoy the journey, not just focus on the destination. And you either pay for experience or you pay for experience. That's my saying out of that season, which is I probably had a bit of humility to come my way. And I learned a lot of humility through that journey,
Let's
as
do
any
it.
20-year-old probably needs to learn.
Yeah,
Probably way too much confidence. But yeah, it was a really good lesson and it set me up well for future companies.
that's awesome. The future company today is unique. What sparked the idea to build digital humans there? And how this wasn't just like a futuristic concept, but a real business opportunity?
We were very fortunate in many ways. We discovered an opportunity to work with the Australian government and a problem that they had that we thought we could initially solve with a different tech we had, which was a video into contact center technology. But they were really struggling with the capacity and just resources to support the sheer volume. So hold times were just astronomical. And they were supporting a really important civilian base with people with disabilities and their families and carers who needed the Australian government support, whether it be financial aid or other services. So this was a critical area of communication and support for people in Australia. And so they liked the idea of human contact. Makes a lot of sense when you've got body language, you've got a lot of emotions, you've got all sorts of things that you can deal with more visual interface. And it's much simpler than, say, a traditional website or things like that. But the problem is they couldn't resource it with humans. So we worked with them on a concept around creating the first digital human. We created Nadia. And so that was really an avatar that was powered by a natural language processor, IBM Watson, that would interact on typical topics that would generally be Q&A questions that would tie up a lot of resource, but people were asking the same questions over and over again. Anyway, that was a huge success. We got to co-design that with obviously the audience in mind, and it was just a phenomenal time in my career, and it inspired me just the future of AI and how machines are going to be able to interact with us in more and more human ways. And I didn't want to miss out on this. So back in 2016, we decided we will become an AI company. We set up UneeQ. We created the first digital human across banking, healthcare, government, education. We really led the world in this technology at a very early time and in the search for repeatable product market fit as well. So it wasn't all glory, but it was very inspirational. And I loved waking up every morning and going out and solving this problem.
That's amazing. In 2016, I don't think most people even had any idea that AI existed that far back and just how far it's come and just what you started with. It's pretty amazing. What is the core product today and like how is it transforming the customer and user experiences? People engaging, interacting with digital humans now?
Yeah, so today we have really two parts to our business. The initial strategy was a platform business. I don't recommend going that path, but that is the path that we ended up pursuing. And most likely went this path because it's a little bit of throw a whole lot of mud against the wall and see what sticks, product market fit strategy. And so we thought the future of AI is going to be a lot of language models, a lot of AI ecosystem, and we wanted to be just the interface layer over top. And we just got the timing really wrong on that strategy. As you can imagine, we had pockets of success, but never the hyperscaling story that we initially set out to create around that. And so going back into where we are today, so we now have a much better ecosystem. As you can imagine, everyone's doing
Sure.
AI. There's a lot of language models. There's a lot of companies that are
Yeah.
focused on this. And so we now have partners all around the world, great technology partners like Dell Technologies, AWS, Slalom, and agencies, and just really awesome companies that are building great solutions with AI. And we're one of those key ingredients that they integrate in and use us as the interface of choice. And that's all just APIs and SDKs that support that experience. And so you've got our digital humans helping people through tourism, ordering tickets on like Qatar Airways. You've got them supporting customers through queries. You've got sales, digital humans helping e-commerce websites close more deals. They've been deployed in all sorts of places, universities, things like that. We now have a separate part of our business though, because we meta a little bit when they've got the Oculus or Quest.
Hmm.
They still think about the killer app. And so we still think about the killer apps. And so we've now got a product line in our business all centered around training. And in particular, we've been focusing a lot around sales training and role play. So this is where I think digital humans absolutely thrive, which is where the digital human can simulate a customer or an employee or an employer, and basically people can interact with these digital humans in practice and then get AI to give them feedback and support and coaching around that. And so that's a big area of our business now. And this is super new, but very exciting because the way we learn, I think, is going to be substantially disrupted with AI. And I think this will be a big part of it.
Oh, without a doubt. So the digital humans, are they superhuman like? Are they animated? How did you go about that? And just how did you approach realism versus relatability and people knowing that it's not a live person?
Yeah, this has actually been a really interesting journey, even back from 2016. Some of the audience will be familiar with Uncanny Valley.
Uncanny Valley, yeah.
Yeah, and Uncanny Valley is a real thing, right? Like it's I guess the best effort of creating some scientific measurement across something that's just a feeling, an eerie feeling. It's actually, I think, translated to eerie feeling, as a Japanese scientist actually came up with it. And I think when we initially started, the digital humans weren't very sophisticated in mind, and nor were they as sophisticated in animation. So to go hyper real, even photo real, is super uncanny because they can't be sitting
Right.
and just and not answer your question. Oh, can you say that again, please? And so it would be really annoying. You're just like, something's not right with this.
Yeah.
And you fast track to where we are today. And so now we've got different technologies we can utilize. We can obviously use generative video game models and things like that, which is more commonly known around deepfakes, and the generative photorealism, which is phenomenal, and obviously how real it can look and
Yes.
seem. But now you're also dealing with a different end of the equation, which is trust and authenticity. And so it's this interesting scale where we've now moved out of, I guess, what we would say uncanny valley. Even our CGI characters are very hyper real and have a lot of human aspects to them. Like in our AI models, we're even controlling their breathing rates, their personality, their context, their expressions while listening. Like really a lot of depth goes into the human nature of this experience and simulating what feels more normal and natural to talk to, and actually feels more engaging and interesting too. So those two big things. And then we have to weigh up, how photoreal do we now go? Now that the brain is getting more sophisticated with large language models and
Right.
how they can communicate, now that the animation can really move and interact in a more natural way, like I'm doing now, the last thing is like, when do you go photoreal and why? Why do you go photoreal? And I think those are really valid questions based on the use case, based on
Yeah.
trust with your audience. But we certainly advise our customers away from trying to fool people into thinking AI is
Right.
human. That's never a good strategy. I think being transparent, been actually bringing that out. And that's where I think our CGI characters still remain probably the most popular by our customers, because there's no fooling. It's quite clear they're still AI, but they're really human-like and engaging. So I think it's the balance for today.
I think that's really important, is just not trying to present something that's not real as real.
Yeah.
Especially because just that trust factor. And if that perception is there of, oh, I thought I was talking to a person and now I realize this is not a live human, I feel like I've been duped. Yeah.
Totally. Just for the record, I am a live human too, in case you wondered if I substituted myself.
I'm a semi-live human, fully alive after coffee. Yeah. Well, you've led UneeQ through some product innovation changes. That's 9 years. I mean, that's a lot of really working and developing the product market education from us not really understanding AI to now really having that awareness and then scaling up the company as well. What's been the hardest part of building a company that's basically creating a new category?
Yeah, this is definitely the biggest challenge as a company in my career, my fourth company. And but like I said, probably the most interesting. I think I'm just addicted to the challenge, so I'm scared maybe after this one, what's the next challenge I keep going for? But I would say that there are two things with this company I think that made it really challenging. I think timing is key, and I think what one of the most important lessons, if I was to look back, is truly understanding the dependencies that surround the success. It's funny, I did spend some time with Sam Altman at Y Combinator when he was there, and when we were showing him what we were doing, and his comment that I didn't like at the time, but I actually appreciate it more now, which was, you're solving the wrong problem.
Hmm.
The problem that needs to be solved first is the language model. If you don't have good language and conversation, then you'll never be successful. And I walk out of that going, I'll show you. What do you know? But in many regards, he was right. And so the dependency for us to be successful is we really needed the digital humans to have a sophisticated enough brain to do things well, not
Yeah.
just look great, move great, feel great. All those things are good and they make us the best at what we do, but without some of those dependencies. And I think there's also market dependencies as well. So customer readiness to embrace AI. When we started, there's so much negativity towards they're going to take all our jobs, and
Right.
this is and so nearly every media interview I did, they would try to bring in this like, are we going to lose all our jobs? And so every company was so scared to do anything with AI to be seen as like we're stripping our jobs. So it's just interesting dependencies that you have to think through. And I just definitely didn't think that through. I was just like, a bull in a china shop, really. I just was straight out, this is going to change the world, and I just know it. And I don't think I'm wrong. But when you're trying to create a successful company, timing is super important and asking
Right.
those key questions. And then, yeah, I think the nature of all those R&D cycles, also just the nature of timing, right? So now if your timeline has gone out, now you need to make sure you've got cash to give you that time. But equally, in a space like AI, things are changing rapidly. And so
Yes.
you're building your R&D models and then you realize, wow, we've got to start from scratch again. And I think I saw a lot of competitors fall away who started around us or came in more in the 18s, 19s, even in the 20s, and they stuck to their guns on their R&D stack and it became irrelevant really quickly, and they couldn't keep.
Right.
And something we did really is we weren't precious about, even though we'd spent $30 million on this area of research, we took the lessons and we just said, scrap it, go again. And so that was really bold decision making and really hard to do. When you look back now, we're one of the few that survived through that era, and we've put ourselves in a good leading position because I don't think people truly understand the value of still the lessons. That's one thing that I'm grateful for, even though I say the timing. Sometimes I joke I could probably have started this company in 21, 22 and been where we were. But
Right.
a lot of the lessons that make us so good at what we do, it's very hard to gain that in a short period of time. And so that was, I guess, on the positive of that.
Oh, that's really good. What have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned on that journey?
Yeah, I think I've touched on a few of them. The really big ones for me, if I was to do it again, I definitely would have gone more narrow. The platform strategy first. It's almost intuitive to do something like that, throw it against the wall, see what sticks, lock in. But because of timing and things like that, nothing really locked in. The market wasn't ready, the dependencies weren't ready. And so customers weren't really going to tell you a lot. I think you had to actually innovate deep inside your own product and research team and really go narrow on something. That would have required taking a pretty big bet. The way we went, bought us time because we could sell good amounts of revenue still. through innovation projects. And if you look at OpenAI, ChatGPT, if you actually look at their churn rate and things like that, you can see that as whoosh, everyone goes in, jumps, innovates, tries stuff, whole lot churns off. It's that type of thing. And so that's the attraction of doing a platform, is something like that, because you can just show your investors rapid growth at a period of time. There's nothing sticky enough. There's no true product market fit. And so you're trying to just keep that until you can find that lock-in. I don't think the strategy I wouldn't do it like that. I would have gone very narrow, probably locked in on training straight away, and really just honed in a product around that and then expanded to platforms. So that would have been one of my bigger lessons. I know a lot of founders have told the same lesson. I know a lot of people told me the same lesson when I was doing that. And it's very hard. I can totally appreciate founders in a situation where the intuitive way to go down this path, particularly when you're creating something so new in a new category, is keep your options open, see what's about to light up, where is it going, and you can do that still. And that's I think the maturity that probably comes through lessons. Paying for experience or paying for experience, Jeff? Yeah. So that's probably one of the biggest ones from a product strategy and how we execute. And definitely the other one I touched on is understanding timing.
Right.
Um, and all my other businesses, I didn't have to understand that so much because product market fit was already established. That's the key to timing. The others, for me, was really about assessing existing businesses, whether it be telecommunications, software, video, and really disrupting something that exists. So you're looking for unique selling points, differentiators, really driving a better value proposition into that market. Much easier in some respects.
Yeah. How do you keep your team aligned around a vision as bold and futuristic as unique, especially when you're working with bleeding edge technology and what they build today? You may scrap tomorrow and start over. Like you were saying, you've been through several iterations. How do you keep them aligned and focused and excited?
I think one of the advantages we had was the technology was just so cool to work on. Like, it was super fun. So you're attracting some of the best talent in the world who either have come out of, some of them have come out of studios, great movies that we've all seen, or some of them come out of great gaming companies, big
Yeah.
AI and like IBMs and Cisco's and things like that. So we had a phenomenal team join us. And the attraction is, it's actually quite a grind, particularly in the entertainment and media industry. It's glamorous on the outside, but the actual work can be actually like hugely intensive and just grinding. And after you do that in your career for so long, there is this need to say, I've got all these skills. Can I deploy this into something more meaningful outside of just film, games, etc.?
Yeah.
And our advantage was, this is something that's going to be used in everyday life. We can show people with disabilities that are now getting help where they weren't getting help before. We can actually show that we've got education now using this. And we could show that the biggest brands in the world, banks and others, were creating financial literacy programs using our digital humans. And so there was this feel-good connection to that. I was doing something that was impactful in the world. And that never stopped from the inception of the company. Even though we weren't scaling at the rate we wanted, we were continually met with opportunities to do something that made a difference, and we kept doing those things. I think that was probably one of the more important parts of what everyone was doing. And then I guess at some point, there's this fundamental belief in the vision and the way that digital humans will just impact everyone's life. And I still fundamentally believe it, which is the way we interact with machines. You can see it changing, right? Even search is
Yes.
changing. We're using ChatGPT and all these other products even more than we Google things now. And we're using voice, and voice is going to extend into visual interfaces. So
Right.
retail will shift phenomenally different, so that personalized experiences in retail with avatars and things are just going to become mainstream. And I saw this many years ago, and I do think this is where we're going.
Ready to future proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed just for SaaS founders and C suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on demand fractional C suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling SaaS founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And hey, if you're already crushing it but too busy to breathe, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. Completely free, not a sales call. You can't buy anything on there. And we will pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com. That's where leaders evolve and companies transform. Oh, I like that. Things are definitely changing in how we're interacting. And how would you say, not that AI is taking jobs away, but how would you say that you've seen it impact jobs and really enhancing experiences on both sides for employees of companies and the roles that they're taking on and how that's changed? And then also from the other side and just how people are interacting with and getting answers faster or getting results faster with digital humans.
I think one of the best things about AI today, where it's at, is the productivity gain. I think this is one
Yeah.
of the biggest impacts to an existing workforce. Not even around disruption of your job. It's more about the fact that your job, you can now go so much faster or be that much more effective. It's definitely why I love our sales trainer and our training type products. Because if you think about sales teams, you often have these high performers who typically don't need too much support, but they're just naturally either charismatic, they have an X factor, they know how to sell, and they're good.
Right.
But they tend to make up even only 20% of a sales team. And you've got the 60% in the middle who have the potential but need more coaching, need focus, need
Yeah.
support. And then you've got the 20% who are never going to make it, don't even know
Right.
why they got hired. And so the 60% are going like doing their best with what they're trying to do. But sales managers, they don't have the time. They often invest in sales enablement programs. Everyone, watch this video. You click through the online training things. We've all done them. They're horrible. Salespeople don't want to do them and rarely pay attention. And so no one's getting better. And the
Right.
reality, though, is if you get better, you make more money, right? That's the beautiful thing with sales. Everyone wins. So how do you help people get better? You've got to create ways that they learn better. And a lot of people learn through practicing versus just absorbing information. And so
Right.
just AI like this, where they have a digital customer and they just start pitching and talking. Now they're thinking, oh, yeah, how do I handle that objection? Oh, there's a real formula to being good at this. If I follow this formula, I can be good. I don't have to be charismatic or like the 20%. And that's where we're seeing massive shift in people actually now getting better at their job and doing that. We've got students that don't have someone they can just call on to say, hey, Uncle Jim or Uncle Jeff, I'm going for this role. Can you give me some coaching? Some students that we're working with, Hope Kids, this is why that organization exists, because they come from obviously lower decile or underprivileged regions where they don't have access, like you and I probably had access, right? And so this is now a digital human that coaches them through the interview. They can practice the interview, can do these things. And now we've got kids actually getting jobs because they've been able to build the confidence through this program and do things like that. So I love that part of AI. I love us always like improving and being more productive because of that. And then you just break it down to everyone knows these ones, like developers are coding so much faster now because they've got AI writing code for them. QA is
Yeah.
now the big thing more than even the coding. So just a productivity gain that we've got is exciting.
No, I'm fascinated by that just the sales aspect, because sales is emotional, it's real time, it's messy. And how do digital humans simulate real buyer interactions better than other tech? How do you do that and really make it a real experience that salespeople lean into?
I think emotion's key, right? That's one
Yeah.
of the big things. And you've got to be emotionally intelligent in sales, right? I think that's one of the key
Yes.
parts of the visual elements of digital humans is you've got to be able to read the face. You got to see, am I creating the right reaction? And I can respond based on the reaction I've created. So I've said something that I think good, but the customer looks confused. You don't just keep going. You actually go, oh, sorry, do you need me to say that in a different way? Or did you get that? Like you're checking
Right.
in. And that's just very human to do that. But you'd be surprised how many salespeople may not be able to do that always when they've got the pressure of dealing with the objections and doing all these things. And so they can miss those cues. So the coaching can be really helpful in helping them just get more emotionally intelligent and creating that emotional connection. Listening is a big deal, right? Just becoming really good at listening and looking at for cues. So listening with your eyes is a coaching saying my boys soccer team we do, but it's true. Listen with your eyes, like really focus on what's going on. And then I think the other things with digital humans is just the nature of their personality and the context of what they're dealing with. So are they warm and engaged, or is this a cold call and they're like
Mm,
skeptical?
yeah.
And so when you receive emotions, it also does something in you. You react to emotions. And so that's also important. Like, how am I showing up when someone's skeptical and they're like, that wouldn't work? Am I defensive? Am I curious? And those two things create a very different outcome. And so digital humans are just such a good way of simulating these situations where you can really fine tune your skills and your self awareness. And then sales leaders, the best part is they can also, instead of just shotgunning all this training, they can go, Danny, he actually just needs to work on some closing techniques. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time with him on closing techniques, as opposed to Danny needs to go through this whole 2 day course on
Right.
all these different things. And I think that's going to be just such a huge time saver.
Oh, so good. And I think that's a really great benefit of AI is instead of it just flips the training model. So instead of time being the constraint, you have to go through full 2 days so that you get everything. It's really outcome based. And
Yeah,
so you're focusing on what do you really need and how quickly can we get that to you? And I think that's one of the reasons that salespeople and probably everybody is resistant to train kind of traditional training classes is
totally.
because the outcome they need is very small and the time commitment's really large. And
100%.
yeah, when you can flip that around and really get them the result quickly, that's who wouldn't want to do that?
Exactly. 100%. I just think this is why I think just education in general, like we're talking about sales training, but even the way that kids are learning today in schools, I think there's so much to be gained through the way that AI can become far more laser sighted on the things that you can get really good at. And I do believe that it's really hard to practice. It's more about information, and so the more we can move into practice, I think the better we get at our craft. So, yeah.
I like that. Let's talk about maybe some early stage growing pains. What's a moment that almost broke the business? And then how did you navigate that and continue on and been super successful?
Yeah. One of the nice things, the inflection point of large language models. Here they came. And 2021, we were aware of OpenAI and obviously reached out and wanted to get some early access. And we were able to get access to a very early model and had huge amounts of hallucinations, but it really showed us the power of this technology. And so we were like, oh, this is about to change everything. And it did. We all have experienced it now in the several big tech companies that all are giving us large language models, and it's almost commoditized in our life already. But the power of this was really what we needed to unlock what we were hoping we could show everyone the value of, obviously the interface on top of it and what you can do with that interface. So that was really exciting. That was great. And then it became about, though, the strategy still for us as we're trying to grow. We were still straddling between direct sales, partners were pretty low down here, and direct sales is here. And then all of a sudden you get all this partner interest. And because all of a sudden you've got all these integrators, solutions companies, consultants, agencies, they all now are like, we're going to bake some AI cakes and we need the best in there. And so now our biggest thing, we just weren't set up to handle this. And so whilst we were excited and we're trying to navigate it, that nearly broke us because we're trying to look after existing customers. We had, a long period of time since capital raising as well. So we're already running ourselves pretty lean to make the capital work. So we're a lean team. And then we get all this work starting to come in. And like we had team members burn out. It was not a good time. Like people
Mm.
were working, because it was also coming around the globe. So we had time zones. So you have team members waking up at 5 a.m. and like finishing at midnight. That's
Wow.
literally.
That's rough.
And so I didn't handle that super well, in the sense that I was trying to solve it, but I didn't know how to solve it. And I knew this was happening, but you hang in there, team, we'll figure it out. And so to have a few members still burn out was really hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, just I wish I could have done that better, but that was definitely a growing pain issue. And it's really important for me, the culture and the way I look after the people. It's how I want to run this company. And so that for me is where I needed to improve. I learned a lot. And so we've now, obviously learned, we've put better systems in place. We've got hiring people in different locations in the world to handle the time zones. And we're definitely on the right track again. But that was big, and partners are very demanding too. So realizing for us, we then start moving a lot more attention towards these partners, but partners, the time to get them onboarded, get the customers rolling, things like that. So we actually ended up drying up a lot of our run rate. So our pipeline took a little bit of a lumpy bit. And so then you're managing this cash timing, because we're used to deals
Right.
coming in. And now we're waiting for these partner deals to come through. And we've made our bed with 3 or 4 big partners, which is great. But it takes a long time to penetrate the sales enablement, the awareness, the getting that through into customers. Yeah, so then we're going back to shareholders and saying, hey, we need a little top up. That's never fun. Shareholders rarely high five you, even though when you've got all the good things going on, they're like, yeah, more cash, buddy, go get it. Particularly as we came through 22 into 23, market conditions were interesting. And so everyone's just a little bit on edge. So that was a tough scale time, but you navigate through it. I don't think there's any formula to really solve for those things. You're adapting with the information you have. You stick to your convictions where they're strong and you believe that will get you through, and you be humble enough to learn and adapt where the information changes. And I think that's really what we had to do. And I would like to say we're on the other side. We're always in some form of scale challenge and
Of
dealing with
course.
fires, but definitely on the other side of that problem. So that's good.
Yeah. Funding and financing a frontier tech company is not easy at all. And you said you raise capital, you've been capital efficient, maybe bootstrap some in the beginning. What advice do you have for other founders navigating this decision, and how did you think about it?
Yeah, I think every form of funding. So other businesses I've worked in Bootstrap, I've done bank debt, different types of financing, and obviously venture capital. I've worked with family offices and others. So so it's been definitely, I would say, the alignment of the investor is just the key, regardless of what you're doing, and really understanding it's really understanding what's success look like for them, what's a good day at the office, and then are you the right fit for that? And then I think there's a value alignment, and just things like who are they going to put on the board if they have a board seat, and just like scrutinizing those things more. I think the nature of this business, combination of my own capital. Then we decided to go external on Series A. We raised good Series A round, about 7.5 mil at the time, which was good in 2016, and brought a combination of VC, institutional, and family office in on that. And overall, I think that's been good. I do think this company was founded in New Zealand, and it is a different game building business in the US to New Zealand. And I think the more investors you have in your core markets, the better, because they understand the market a little bit better, and you've got a bit more cultural alignment. So I think that makes a difference. And we started adding more investors in a future round. We did a bridge round. We brought in more American US investors in that round. So I think that was a good idea, and I would definitely probably recommend that. The nature of what I think I did really was I didn't go beyond my skis and valuations. I think too many companies did that. I've seen companies really go under in this recent time with valuation resets. So too many of the companies that I know, or even friends, businesses, really got impacted. Down rounds hurt, and definitely those valuations have made a big impact. So what we did well was very capital efficient. So we decided we're not going to raise externally. So we had revenue, we had growth. So we were able to do that. I can appreciate not every business can do that, but for us, we were able to restructure to a point. We did that quite early. I guess my background in running profitable businesses before running venture funded businesses has probably helped. It probably went back to my roots of pathway to positive EBITDA and just let's just make this thing pay its own way. Again, 22, it changed a lot, and we were able to do that strategy well. Never nice, obviously restructuring, losing good people in that process, but necessary. And we pulled our burn rate. I don't think we've had a burn rate over 100K a month in a long time. So we've done really well just balancing that. And then occasionally, as I said, you go shareholders, you need a high five on a lumpy cash moment or something like that when the partner moment happened and it caught us out. But other than that, I think we did a good job. And I'd imagine companies similar size, where they've done that, they've given themselves optionality. They haven't diluted themselves with really horrible valuations.
Right.
Or they've pushed things down the road with convertible notes or safe notes and pushed the valuation conversation out a little. And I think those are all good strategies at this time. And I think we're all sitting here hoping for the market to start returning so we can do a bit more capital injection at reasonable valuations again.
I like that. I really appreciate that perspective. It's so good. And just the way that you think about it and articulated that at different stages. Good.
Thank you.
What advice would you have for founders that are building something ahead of the curve? And you guys were really early in the process. And I would say building ahead of the curve, especially when the market doesn't fully get it yet.
Yeah. I would just give them a big hug first and go, oh man, good on you. Good on you. Look, the dependencies would be the first thing I look at. You're building a market and you've got this conviction that this will change the world, this will be a big deal, which is great. What are the things that really need to be in place to ensure that happens? Are you solving the right problem first is another way of framing it. And do you have to be the one solving all the problems to make that problem? Or is there an ecosystem of players that are already investing in that? And then working out that timing. I think timing is the key to that founder. Really scrutinize the timing and ask yourselves the hard questions around what that looks like. Because it could be the difference between making and breaking and costing you a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's pretty much, I think, a lot of great ideas go to the grave because they just came in too early. The amount of companies that come to me or ex-founders actually and say, I came up with digital humans in 2010. And I was like, that's awesome. That's amazing. I was early. You were super early.
Yeah.
That had no chance, right? And so it's like, yeah, it didn't. And you're like, yeah. So timing is so key to that. And then I do think I would be very curious around even their strategy to establish that category, right? And that's where just thinking about that product strategy and how they go about product market fit, I just think is so key. And understanding whether or not it's something that you can gain through customers or something that you're going to have to incubate and really focus in on and really work on something. And then you need to align the capital needs to those strategies and what that looks like. One, you can get some revenue. One, you don't get any revenue, right? So you got to stay lean. You raise that capital. You really create a way of incubating in there. So, yeah, I think that would probably be my starting point.
I like that. Dependencies is something that I think probably doesn't get talked about enough, and just really figuring out what do they do before and what do they need to know, where do they need to be in order to adopt your product, and really figuring out, is this the starting point or is there's some other problem before that to solve? Because it's really easy to fall in love with the problem and go, this is it.
Yeah.
And just like the advice that you got from Sam Altman, hey, this is not it. That there's the problem before that. There's something that you need in order to make that problem relevant.
Yeah, 100%. I had a video company, and another really good example of me getting this wrong. I can give you lots of stories of me getting things wrong, but we were building frictionless video. We had a number of video products, but frictionless video was basically video in a browser, and we could connect that between any technology. So you could plug in a Cisco system, Polycom, you could connect it to your call center, things like that. It was really cool tech back in 2010. So it was a good.
Wow, that's really early.
Good pitch. And it was great, but we would end up having to use on most browsers that we tried to do, we had to use Flash, right? Terrible technology. Horrible. What's wrong with me? Anyway, and then Zoom comes out and Zoom goes, browsers are terrible. We will control everything and we'll create it all in an app. And so here I am with my strong conviction going, no, the world is going to do everything through browsers. No one wants to install apps anymore. Like browsers is where it's at. And so I doubled down on that, and Zoom went, apps compromise the experience. Browsers compromise the experience. People have browser issues. Flash is terrible. WebRTC doesn't exist at that point.
Right.
And so, like, arguably, Zoom asked the right question, which was, what is the most painful point and what is the most important problem to solve? And I focused on the most important problem was frictionless connection, and people don't like installing apps. And that wasn't actually the most important problem to solve. The most important problem was the fact that, for me, I needed a dependency of browsers working well. I needed WebRTC like it is today.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing on this call, like Google Hangouts, like Teams, everything has a WebRTC browser experience.
Right.
And it works pretty well. But that dependency didn't exist for me to do what I want to do. So I should ask myself that question. Would have gone probably more the path of Zoom back then. And credit to them. They focused on what really mattered, and it was just consistent video calls that just work and can do some basic things well. And to their credit, they asked the right questions, solved the right problem, took the dependencies out of the equation that weren't working well, and just controlled what they could. And now they're a great company. And I think it's just a great lesson to learn around dependencies and thinking about the right problem.
And they weren't even the first to market. They unseated giant competitors like WebEx, GoToMeeting, huge. And they are the standard today.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Back then, I mean, there were so many players in this space. And it was interesting because there was a lot of questions. I would love Eric to hear how he would have answered this back in the day. Everyone was like, Google, Microsoft, they were going to offer this for free. How are you even going to survive?
And why would anybody pay for it?
Yeah. So he's done phenomenally well in a world where he's just like, offering something average for free doesn't matter.
Right.
You just deliver something great that works, that people love, and they'll be happy to pay for it. So
where do you think digital human and AI interaction is going in the next 2 or 3 years? I was going to say 5, but that's like an eternity in AI land. What's hype and what's real?
Question. That would be rough.
Yes.
So what we can definitely see happening at the moment is we're now starting to see this established strategy forming inside enterprise. Enterprises are thinking about, what does it look like to have a multimodal conversational engine? And so what that means is they're effectively thinking about an AI agent, but even I'm hoping more go this way, they should, which is like a personality that exists inside the org, whether it's an internal facing for employees, whether it's multiple, which probably is, and external facing to customers, where customers have onboarding, customer support, sales support, things like that. And it all comes into a centralized stack, though, where they can make sure that they've got the continuity, the integrations, the quality, and things like that. And because that exists, outside of that is really modalities. People are going to have SMS contact, WhatsApp. There'll be websites that will change. So digital humans, I think, are going to become more and more normal inside websites. So I think websites are going to shift hugely into conversational. So instead of clicking through and figuring things out, again, what do you need? I need this. Website changes, reforms, gives you the information, ask questions. It will show it, bring it up, change the page, things like that. We've started doing that on our website. If anyone wants to try, go onto platform, talk to Sophie and ask her for a demo or things like that, and you'll see how the website changes and different things like that. Pretty cool. So I think just holistically around digital humans, I think as an interface, it's going to be more broadly accepted as one of the modalities that companies need to be thinking about. And it makes a lot of sense in physical spaces, train stations, tourism, retail stores, like things like that, like actually having a friendly face to help you and support you. And I think this is going to probably accelerate quite quickly over the next 3 to 5 years if we were to say mass adoption. I think for us and where we see this having the biggest impact in the nearest term, I think training is about to accelerate like we've never seen anything before. Because right now, I think AI adoption, there's still nervousness about external facing AI. So a lot of organizations think about internal productivity. How do we use this to be better internally? A safe way to incubate and do things. And I think the internal use of AI is the biggest acceleration. So for digital humans, it will be in training primarily. And so you'll see things like onboarding staff, HR, sales training, like we talked about, management training, things like that. So I do feel like those will be the big spaces for digital humans.
I like it. Where can people learn more about you and about UneeQ online?
So UneeQ is spelt in a unique way, uneeq.com. You can find out all about the things we've talked about. You can experience a digital human. You should be able to find Sophie if you just click platform, she'll pop up, which is good fun. There might even be a little robot you can talk to called Eno, so see if you can find Eno in there. Sales Trainer is also on there on the homepage, so if you're interested in that, you can certainly look into that, and there's free trials for anyone interested. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. Follow and reach out if I can help you with anything.
Awesome. So good. Danny, thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thanks again, Danny, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Danny and UneeQ at uneeq.com, and it's uneeq.com. That's UneeQ. All links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership. You can see full video episodes, everything you hear on audio, you can actually watch as well. Plus, we have training, shorts, outtakes, lots more stuff over there for you on YouTube. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with a fellow builder who thrives on strategy and fresh perspective. It'll give you both something to chew on together. Everyone who shares this week gets instant access to the Cool Kids Circle. Yeah, that's where people quote this podcast in meetings and pretend they discovered it first. So, be a trendsetter. Share now. What if your website could read your customer's mind? Next week, Chris Daly, a neuromarketer and conversion rate optimization expert, shares how psychology-based testing can uncover exactly what your users want. And then after that, we have Laura Bell Main, CEO of SafeStack and author of Security for Everyone. Laura brings fresh insights on building secure by design development teams without slowing down innovation. I'll see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSFuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.